Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to chat with you guys a little bit about the fact that strength is not as specific as we have been convinced it is. And when I say that, I'm talking about the strength world, the coaching world, everything else. There's very large amounts of strength coaches who really and truly believe that the only way to get stronger at any specific low skill lift, and that's what most of your power lifts are, they're low skill lifts, right? The bench being maybe the most technical. And the only way to get good at them is to specifically train those exercises in the exact movement pattern. And the reality is, the movement patterns itself around these actually only contribute to maybe 10% of your strength potential on an exercise, right? And this is why you guys watched me last year do stuff to where I did no conventional deadlifting, zero. I did no normal back squatting. And then I walk in and start squatting well past 500 pounds and break a couple of 600 plus pound deadlifts, like conventional deadlifts. And I built those using box squat variations, sumo pulls, speed work, dynamic work, doing supplemental accessory work for hypertrophy, and yet walk in and hit these lifts. Okay, and these were substantial increases. And it's not just me who's done this. You guys have seen there's other people on YouTube. Alpha Destiny is a perfect example. Does a very similar approach. And yet he keeps getting stronger. And what people have to remember is that yes, technique and form and specificity do matter, right? They do matter. But where does your strength potential come from? It comes from your muscle mass primarily. Okay, it comes from your muscle mass. It comes from your intermuscular coordination. Well, how do we develop intermuscular coordination? We develop it by lifting maximum weights. Right? We develop it by lifting maximum weights. And what people need to understand is that when we talk about lifting maximum weights, a squat is a squat. And I'm not saying you should be trying to find the most bizarre squat you possibly can in the hopes of having it carry over, because there could reach a point to where the carryover could get less and less, right? It could get less and less. But generally speaking, if you have a bar on your back and you take your hips down to parallel and you come back up, it doesn't really matter what variation you do as far as what? The ability to learn to strain and grind. That's why you guys saw me. I haven't squatted over 500 in 6 years. I came in, started rebuilding my squat after an erector pull. I went back to this style of training because I knew it was the only thing that was going to work. After pulling an erector, messing around with minimalist training and other stuff, and had an infection in my foot that made me imbalance a load. And I realized I just wasn't all around strong enough or built enough. Right? It was putting me at risk of injuries in my 40s. I came back to the conjugate style training. Okay, and then what did we see? What happened? We came back to it. There you go. There's a miss up there. We got to throw those in too, but we don't get hurt when we miss lifts either. It's the beauty of it. But I came back to the conjugate style training. When I started box squatting again, my best box squat was 440 pounds off of a 12-inch box. I did all this other work to get thicker, to get stronger, to put muscle in the right places. Did nothing but band and chain, right? I started doing stuff where I was doing 400-pound box squats against various bands and chains, sometimes 425. But we went up and up, and I got to a point where I was doing like 405 with 100 pounds of bands or chains on different days. And then I started cutting the chain and band weight down and increasing the bar weight. I never touched anything on the bar more than about 450 on a box. Came in and hit a 502 box squat. 502 box squat. You know, you do stuff like that, and people have to remember a max squat is a max squat. Max squat is a max squat. I did no conventional back squatting without a box. I came in and did one sample just to see how it felt against reverse bands. I did something like, 565 with 80 pounds of reverse bands. Next week I came in and did a back squat. Hit a 522 back squat after going a year without doing anything but box squatting. Also, that was the heaviest squat I had ever hit on camera since coming back to YouTube. I continued to do squats against chains for a few weeks, and within a month walked in and hit a 552 back squat. Again, biggest squat I have hit on camera since being on YouTube, and actually the biggest squat I had hit in excess of a decade without doing the back squat. So what does that tell us? Strength isn't as specific as people think it is. A max lift is a max lift. Right? What about the deadlift? I did tons of speed pulls. I actually had messed around with hook grip a ton. I messed with hook grip for a year and a half. Didn't work out very well for me because I have really short thumbs. Did all these speed pulls though with sumo work. Bands, chains. The heaviest sumo I hit through all this cycle of training, once I dropped the silly hook grip, went back to mixed grip, had a 600 sumo off a 2-inch block, bam, out of nowhere. Okay, and people are like, well, it doesn't count, it's not off the floor. Other people, it's not conventional. I started working conventional back in against chains. Had some grip issues, worked on grip training. What happens? Walk in and hit a 605 conventional. 2 weeks later, I hit a 615 conventional. Okay, again, 2 heaviest deadlifts I have ever hit since being on YouTube. Not in my life when I was in my 20s, I'm in my 40s now, but since being on YouTube. We built it using other movements. Why? Because a max deadlift is a max deadlift. A 1-inch sumo block pull, the max on it, still helps you learn to strain and pull against a normal conventional deadlift. All right? And that needs to be made very, very clear. It needs to be made very, very clear. How else do we get stronger? By just hypertrophying everything. Hypertrophying your weak links. Okay? Tons of hypertrophy. Get big. Size equals strength potential. Now, do joint angles matter for your hypertrophy? To some extent, yeah. Because you'll have muscle fibers on big lifts that only work through certain joint angles. And if you don't develop those muscle fibers, you won't always get the best force production through that joint angle. But if you have anything that builds things through those angles, you're going to improve your lifts. Right? What is my most important movement for building my squat and deadlifts? Good morning these days. I mean, obviously the box squats and all the speed pulls and stuff matter. The good morning. But if strength is specific, the good morning shouldn't be improving these lifts at all. But again, people forget muscle mass equals strength, or at least strength potential. You still have to actualize that potential by training maxes and doing maxes, but those maxes don't have to be to the exact specific lift. All right? A max press off your chest is still a max press off your chest. A max pull from the floor or a block or a deficit is still a max pull. Max squat is still a max squat. Now, there could be less degrees of carryover with something. Sometimes a zercher or a front squat might not carry over as well as far as training a squat. But you know what? It still will. It will still carry over. Like if you did a bunch of fronts and zercher squats as maxes, but then you trained all the muscles involved in the back squat and got them bigger and thicker and come back in back squat, you probably would PR. You probably would. Because strength is just not as specific as we've been led to believe. I'm not saying it isn't specific, but this idea that the only way to get stronger at low skill lifts, squat, bench, deadlift, overhead press, these are not skilled lifts. Moderately skilled lifts. They're not that technical. Okay. You don't have to spend thousands of hours practicing them for it to carry over. And even if you did, do you really think your subsequent reps teach you to practice doing a max? Your non-first reps in a set? Not really. Not really. And if you use a different form for your lighter weight than your 1 rep maxes, do you think that's even training the skill? No, not at all. So for the specific strength to even carry over, you actually would get more of the specific strength by doing a max box squat than you would doing a bunch of volume on the back squat with light weight that doesn't make you strain. Right? The most specific part about strength is learning to strain against a heavy weight. All right, guys, well, that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.